Hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ. I see you
That
finally
is
got on.
it's Friday in the Riv. Yeah, my browser. I don't know what's wrong with Foxfire. The Foxfire on that one I normally use, it just crapped the bed, so it was a mess. Hey, good afternoon, Jeff. Well, Friday's the day we're going to talk about. Today's the day we're going to go to school. We're going to talk about that fiasco report. Hopefully,
And
somebody else reads it.
how appropriate after $5 million shortfall, according to the school department's chief financial officer, which is
who's
bullshit.
a moron.
Yeah, which is bullshit.
Yeah, which is bullshit because the school department, and I explained this to Coogan when he was on the school committee, when that nitwit came and started running it, saying exactly the same thing. Then he actually came to a meeting and I explained it to him. So let's begin with that. This is a false amount. It's in there as a line item. But healthcare, I told them then, and I say it now, healthcare should not be in their budget. It should be a separate budget item because it's a group. We do not have individual insurance. The school department does not have its own insurance. Whether they're running under budget or over budget is irrelevant. What is relevant is the group running over or under budget. Because like all healthcare systems, the bigger the healthcare base, the healthy people help stabilize the premium for the people who are sick. Last year was the first year we ran slightly over budget, and as far as I can remember, and I've been doing it for 40 years, basically. So, when Coogan was in the school committee, he started with that crap. And the analogy I used for him is, listen, nitwit, you're not in a hole. The money's there. The group has the money. Your particular piece of that group generated enough bills to make the number you stuck in there over budget, but that's not really over budget. It would be and this is the analogy I used. If you were in a Hawaiian healthcare plan, and that healthcare plan included the leper colony on the island of Molokai, they would always be running under budget because the lepers would have their ears falling off and their noses falling off and stuff like that. Even though I think they got a cure for leprosy now, do they? CJ?
Yes, they do.
Okay. Well, they don't have their noses. They don't have their noses and ears falling off anymore.
But I didn't even think there's a leper colony on Molokai.
But they won't. I didn't go to the leper colony, but I did scuba dive off the island of Molokai when I was in Hawaii. But because they're running over budget doesn't mean that they're over budget because they're part of a group. And that group is the entire Hawaiian Islands. And they would be absorbing those bills. It's bullshit again. And this report, which is a good segue, by the way, CJ, I'm glad you brought. It's a good segue to cover this absolutely devastating document, which shows that the school department has absolutely, what we've been talking about for how long? No accountability. Absolutely, they're a rudderless ship, and we're gonna go over it. But this report for the people watching it, I know we've already got some people on there, and the people are sharing it and everything else. They're going to share it. This report's 74 pages long. Granted, not all of them. There's a cover page. There's, a table of contents and stuff. But there's a lot of stuff here. And we're going to hit the highlights. But we'll give you the ending. We're not going to have the cliffhanger ending on a Friday, like the soap operas do. This proves the school department is an unmitigated disaster. There's absolutely, it's a rudderless ship. Nobody knows. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. They're making they're doing all kinds of things that are just fiscally stupid. And who's texting me? Oh God, yeah, and legally not correct. As far as management, totally off base. Some of these things are so basic, it would make anybody wonder who knows about how to be a manager, how to be a leader. How can this happen? Easy, because that school department is not run like a business, not run like a real department. It's a patronage pit. All they worry about is that they're going to get their money. Is Paul Coogan going to be able to reorganize departments to hire more people to do less? And just push everything else under the rug. And it's in here. I'm waiting for CJ to get back.
I'm here.
Okay. So go ahead, CJ. That's my opening. I'll hit the points I made, but go ahead. Now it's your turn.
I just found it interesting that this report was left until after the election, which we know the reason why.
Purely coincidental.
Purely coincidental, yes, But when you start delving into this report and you start seeing more and more and more, and you start looking at the number of positions that they're talking about, you want to vomit.
Yeah. And I mean, and also when we get into the findings and the recommendations.
Oh yeah.
I mean, some of these things, it flabbergasts you. So I'm gonna read a couple that I've highlighted here.
Please.
And I'll give you the page numbers. So if you read this report, you can look at it to see. And I mean, we wouldn't have an hour show is not gonna. We don't have time to even scratch the surface of this horror show.
Right.
But it is a horror show. Okay. First, starting on page 15. This page is the first page of findings and recommendations. And it says, this in the general administration, the general administration section is designated to highlight certain trends that emerged during the data collection phase, which fell outside the primary scope of work. Okay, first, findings. I've got a few. I'm not going to get them all because there's about 15 pages here. Differing communication platforms and or standards exist, creating deficiencies in communications across the district. What's the most important thing when you run an organization? Communication.
Yeah.
Communication. All right. This organization has been like this forever. Coogan's been involved for about 40 or more years. He spent 30 years as a teacher or more, 4 years at least as a school committeeman, and now 6 years as a mayor. So we got at least 40 in the hopper. And this is what they got after all this on all the other people. First of all, the first one, no communication. Departments operate in silos, hindering communication. In other words, they have their own little power base and their own little niche. There's no communication. That's what causes it. Everybody's got their own little empire. They got their fiefdom or whatever you want to call it. Okay, that's another one. The district does not maintain organizational charts. What freaking organization do you notice this big, CJ? You just said how many jobs, how many people? It doesn't have an organizational chart.
Exactly. Who do you go to? There's nothing to say. Who do you go to? Screw it.
That'd be like you. Yeah, that'd be like you working in Mass General and not know what doctor to go to.
Right.
In a situation, right? It's like, who do I go to?
Oh, let's make it even more basic than that. You have a certified nursing assistant working in the hospital, and they don't know which nurse to go to for what.
Yeah.
That's simple, okay?
Yeah.
Even more simpler than that. You have a private in the Army,
Yeah.
okay, who is going, who do I report to? Screw it. I'll go wherever I want. Like, that's going to work on the battlefield, right?
Oh, of course not. Look, as it said, organizational chart. To be ridiculous.
There is no organization.
If a PFC decided to go walk up to the general in the middle of a battle, they'd probably shoot him for taking a general's. I mean, you got the PFC goes to the sergeant goes to the master sergeant goes to the lieutenant. Organization. I mean, this is absurd. I read this. I mean, it makes me want to throw up. I mean, this organization that we pay millions and millions of dollars to is so inefficient, so ridiculous. It's inconceivable. Okay, so next one. Critical business functions lack standardization and oversight, creating gaps in its service and efficiency. No kidding. No kidding. You have no communications, no table of organization, and you can't figure out why you're inefficient and you don't know your ass from a hole in the ground.
Of course not.
Okay? Now we get to, after those findings, which are only the beginning of this circus, the next one is recommendations. And these are so ridiculous, I almost have to laugh. Because I don't know how much they paid them for this, but I could have wrote this thing up in 10 minutes after seeing what they came up with. Establish internal communications to define information. Of course, you have no table of organization, you have no communication, so they're telling you you have to figure out how to make communicate, establish a plan. No plan. 40 years Coogan's been here. There's never been a plan, I guess. Or if there was, he'd throw it in a barrel. And then this is one of my best ones. Publish and maintain organizational charts that reflect reporting structures and the scope of responsibilities for key departments.
You know, the thing that got me on that one was this. If you don't have a reporting structure set up, how the hell can you report sexual harassment, abuse?
Oh, we'll be getting to that one.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I mean, that's why.
Yeah.
But it's intentional.
Exactly.
It's intentional because this way everybody gets lost in the shuffle and nobody can pin anybody down because there's no table of organization. In the military, it's called the TO&E, Table of Organization and Equipment.
Right.
They know where every nut and bolt is, where all the equipment is. I mean, it's like being in the military and not knowing where all the rifles and ammunition are. You know, it's like, then it's review critical business functions, including documentation process, personnel management, and procedures. You know, I mean, this is crazy. An organization this large, this is nuts. This is absolutely insane. This report is like, no wonder they hit it. But then again, nobody read it anyway. It's 74 pages. Now here we go. There we're getting down to the real stuff here. Communications. This is what they found wrong, right?
Got a comment from Colin up on the screen.
Oh, no, you're right, Colin. There you go. I'm glad. I'm reading from this, and I'm sure you know it verbatim, but communications, okay? Staff feed, and this is from staff feedback, by the way. And I highlighted just a few, but you go. This is also page 16. Comments targeted inconsistent information exchange. I'm surprised they even put that in. There's no information change, and Colin knows he can't. Standards primarily regarding critical notifications, such as financial data. Does that sound familiar, Colin? Financial data, hiring, investigation timelines. How's that one, CJ?
I know.
Investigation timelines and a wide variety of of processes or school committee policy initiatives. Interviews were sporadic and broken. Follow-up or follow-through was incomplete. What the fuck? Come on! They should all be put in jail.
Right.
We haven't even begun. I got some. I had to use. I wiped out one marker to mark all this shit. But this is crazy. Crazy. Communications. No communications in an organization at large. And they're telling you, no investigation timelines, hiring, notifications, data, financial data. How can you get but as Colin has been a victim of? Ask a question, try to get a budget. They tell you, shut up. No, you can't. You can't get anything. Now, next, organizational stuff. Part of building and maintaining solid communications involves having accurate organizational charts, which clearly defines reporting structure. You know that. You worked in a hospital. I was in the military. I worked in a quasi-military organization at a fire department. We know about solid lines of communication. None in a department that has hundreds and hundreds of workers. Colin would have to get me. Last time I knew, there was about 900 just teachers, never mind all the administrators. We're talking about thousands of employees with no organizational chart, no anything. So they have to recommend. You have to get an outside entity to tell this moron that we have for a mayor that's worked in this department that you need an organizational chart in any organization. Unless it's a 2-man operation or a 3-man. If you own a garage and you got 2 guys working for you, you don't need an organizational chart. When you got thousands of workers, yeah, you're right. This is crazy. I mean, I read this and I was like bouncing off the walls here.
Colin, do you happen to know how much they paid for this report? Just be nice to know.
Yeah.
Colin also says no spending money until the new school committee.
That's right. Good idea. But that'll never happen. They'll throw everything. Now, we get the general business operations. During multiple conversations, a noted stress surrounding critical business operations. Staff referenced significant gaps in service for payroll, required manual spreadsheets, etc. Getting into the MUNIS, that's the reporting system that we use. Massachusetts Uniform reporting system. So that's, and then it says at least 2 departments mentioned directors not being granted appropriate access to the MUNIS to review and properly oversee budget details. There you go, Colin. Here's your case.
We can do
right
this
here.
Cheaper. We can do this.
Malfeasance on the part of the mayor of the city of Fall River and the school committeeman who didn't ask for the numbers. You got 2 department heads that said they could not properly oversee budget details. How can you report on a budget? That's why you asked the question, and that's why you didn't answer the question, because they don't want anybody to know, because nobody knows. This is nuts.
Hey, Chip, look at the amount that they paid.
Yeah, well,
we could do it for half that.
We would have done it for $10K.
That's right.
This is crazy. This is crazy. It is crazy. Okay, finding more. We're back. We're up to page 18. Read the whole 74 pages if you can, but get a lot of mail.
Make sure you get the Pepto with you.
Now we're in human resources. This is one of my favorites. This is some of the findings. Currently, there is a lack of understanding and coordination among the varied roles within the department. How can you be in a department and not understand your role easily? Because later on, they tell you there are basically no job descriptions, no organizational charts, no way to administer a department. I know how to administer things. I was an administrator. I ran my shift. I had firefighters working. Firefighters knew what they had to do. Lieutenants knew what they had to do. The captains knew what they had to do. I know what I had to do. I know where I was in the organizational chart. I knew who I had to answer to. They knew who they had to answer to. This is insane. This is absolutely insane. There's a lack of understanding about their roles within their departments. I mean, this is crazy. A broad range of essential direct human service are not covered by a, here we go, remember how many, clearly defined by a clearly defined role within the organization. In several cases, there are multiple people designated as having primary responsibility. If you're primary responsibility, you're the only person that has that. So you got multiple people. So no, there is a lack of clarity regarding whom to contact for specific human resource needs. Concerns exist around components of the investigation of complaints. Yeah, concerns about the investigation of complaints, mentoring, and staff retention. This is why they don't want to talk about all the cases, because they have no friggin' idea what's going on. Because they can't investigate them, because it says it right here, and they said it. It's in print. Yeah, concerns exist around the components of investigation of complaints. Well, there you go. Then again, hiring practices and procedures are uncoordinated and untimely. Leave approval practices are uncoordinated. Personnel contracts are implemented inconsistently. Employee discipline is inconsistent and untimely. That translates for you people who never worked in these patronage pits, like the school department. When it says it's inconsistent, that means if you're his friend, you don't get disciplined. If he doesn't like you, he nails you to the wall. And the timeliness, of course, depends on if you're his friend too.
You're right, Stevie.
You're right. That's why. Human resources does not manage, special ed. Okay, that's professional development is not offered routinely. Generally, human resources operates in a silo, which means in their own world, which they shouldn't. It should be part of a team. Recommendations: human resources should be provided with professional development. You know what that means in English? To you guys who's not used to reading these kind of bullshit.
Career-oriented education.
It means he needs to be taught his job.
That's right.
That's what it means. He needs the professional development means you don't know what the F you're doing. They got to bring somebody in and teach you the job they gave you and $150,000 or $200,000 salary. That's right. What it means in English. And they even recommend joining the Massachusetts Association of Personnel Administrators to help them. So maybe they can teach you how to do the job. I'm telling you. Okay, we're going to move along here because, like I said, this is 70 pages. Just want to hit the highlights. And this is crazy. Oh, this is a little sheet they got with a little. Yeah, see this little sheet over here. I got a little highlighting over here. This is human resources area. It's called percentage of gap areas. In licensing, 50% gap, 60% in induction and retention. So that's their primary job is retention.
So 50% of the teachers are working unlicensed.
That's what this says.
That's what it says.
That's what it says. That's what it says.
No wonder we do so shitty on our scores.
They can't get anybody because who wants to work in this chaos? Therein lies the problem. You can't work in this mess. And then it goes on, and we'll get to the next little horror show that we're gonna look at. Here we go. Oh, this is one of my favorites. This is always been one of my favorites here. It's gonna be one of yours, CJ. Facilities. We know that one.
Pacheco.
Yes. Following substantial reorganizations, those are word disaggregated. Oh, they're using some nice words here, some sesquipedalians in here. Disaggregated, that just means split up. You people that don't like sesquipedalian words. 6 divisions, which means they can pay more money to people. Coogan can give more people jobs. Campus services, custodial services, food services, maintenance services. See, most private industry consolidates services. They don't. They expand services so they can give out more jobs. The chief operating officer reports to the superintendent and oversees all operations. And they report to the COO and are supported by 2 administrative assistants and assistant. Findings. Communications and customer service supporting departments and schools is inconsistent or lacking, which means it's not there. Financial reporting. Here's the big one. You ready for this, CJ?
I'm waiting.
Financial reporting is unavailable.
Imagine that.
And he doesn't tell you anything.
Right.
It's unavailable. Shut up. I gave out the contract. Don't ask me nothing. There's no bid. We needed to do it. Shut up. Go back home and eat your sandwich before the lettuce gets bad.
That's right.
So it's like, okay, reporting is unavailable and monitoring and procurement authority is not a responsibility of the facility department. But that's asset management, which is what? Controlling of the assets.
That's right.
Lacks data integrity. That means it's full of shit. They have no idea. The data doesn't add up.
Right.
That's what that means. Okay? And look, we didn't make this stuff up.
No.
This was sent to us. We don't know.
The government paid over $20,000 for it.
If Paul wants to come on and go over this, we can go over it with him because apparently he doesn't know. It's 40 years that all this stuff is still happening.
I know.
And so,
and I love that. I love that nobody takes responsibility for procurement in facilities.
Yeah.
Did Pacheco turn around and say it had to be done, so I did it?
That's right.
That means he took responsibility for procurement.
That's right. He said, "Shut up." Now, next one. Capital improvement planning is basic and does not fully embrace systems to generate short and long-term projects. In other words, it's ineffective. You see, they word these things very carefully because they want to get hired again, and they don't want to just say, this place is being run by a pack of assholes.
Right.
They can't say that. So they put it in this very, very delicately worded to make it look good. So it's capital improvement. They can't fully embrace short and long-term projects. Well, there's no other type of project, is there? It's either a short-term project or a long-term project. So what that means is they can't embrace any project. They can't fully embrace anything. They don't know what the hell they're doing. A perception exists that hiring practices are biased. Oh, what a surprise. You like that line?
Amazing.
Perception is that practices are biased. Review recommendations. Review and establish formal communication protocol. By the way, that was supposed to be established when the department was created. You're supposed to have all these things. We talked about that earlier about tables of organization there.
Right.
Review and establish a formal communications protocol to address work orders, projects, capital planning needs, and with all the school departments to ensure task and project efficiency, which is like, okay, I don't think so. Now, that was page 25 in case you're keeping track. Now I'm on page 26, 3.6. Establish standard reporting communications from the finance and human resource. Well, you're supposed to have a standard reporting system everywhere. Isn't that what Munis is, CJ?
That's what it's supposed to be.
Isn't that what everybody has, a standard reporting system?
Yes, as far as I know.
Fire department reports.
As a matter of fact, Munis is blamed for everything.
That's right.
Sector.
But Fall River School Department has to establish it. We don't have it.
How you got to understand something. The Fall River School Department uses the old method of counting. Fingers, toes, and if they're a guy, one other body part. After that, they can't count over 21. Because even the Chinese use abacus. So
And they got to ensure that departments, all division directors provide appropriate database access to all divisions to review and monitor budgets and purchasing. That means transparency. And also that they have to provide the numbers, which, as we know, they never tell you. How many times have they told Colin, shut up, you're not getting the numbers. I'm going to let somebody else vote for it. You don't want to vote for it? Shut up, go away. Kevin, keep your mouth shut. We're tired of listening to you. Even though I got case law that says they have to. Prioritize fully implementing an asset management service, including current inventory. Well, you're supposed to have that in the first place. Isn't that what your financial people do in your department? They manage the assets. They take care of the budgets. Develop and maintain a facilities operation and procedural manuals. I love this one because you know how I love manuals.
yeah,
In the military, there's manuals all over the kazoo, and that's why they run so efficiently. But they don't have anything, and they still don't have a progressive discipline manual. Yeah. Oh, well, it's beyond that. I mean, this is total insanity. When you read this, if you've ever been in a job in a major organization, or any kind of military or quasi-military, the fire department in this city was big. I was in the United States Army. That's a pretty big organization.
I was going to say they're not that big, are they?
Yeah. And in the United States Army, you got a manual for everything. You got a table of organization for everything.
You got a manual on how to wipe your ass.
There's the janitor knows who he's got to go to.
That's right.
The CEO knows who he talks to. I mean, this is just waste. This is the ode to how taxpayer money gets used for kindling. They just burn our money. And then there's no accountability. That's why, Colin, you're going to have help now. If they don't give you the numbers and you don't get an audit, sue them. Because this is devastating. Absolutely devastating. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, imagine that they're telling them at this point in time to have a manual. Okay, I'm going to show you something, guys, because it's only a couple of steps away on my bookcase. This is something I kept. It's a souvenir. And it was something I did. Okay, you see this? Can you see what that says?
Yep, Special Forces Handbook.
This is the Green Beret Handbook. I still got mine. This is the military. Everybody knows what their job is.
And no question about it.
And there's no debate. So they're not going to tell me that this is just a mistake. It's been going on for 40 years. This is nuts. This is absolutely nuts. Now, review current procurement practices for supplies. Yeah, review it. And then they even gave them the statute following MGL 30B. We talked about this. CJ talks about this. We talked about this. You shouldn't have to review them. You should know them by heart. Like I know the collective bargaining laws. Like, because that's what I was doing. That's what I did. And it says review capital planning process, establish an art. Listen to this one, see, this is the one that got me. You know what it reminded me of when we always talk about Newton's budget?
Yep.
Review the capital planning process and establish an annual project request and review system. That's exactly what they do in the budget of Newton, isn't it?
That's right. It's exactly what they do.
When you put in a budget in Newton, you have to tell them exactly what you're going to do for the year. And then we got another one of these little charts that says, that's got a few things about recruitment, hiring, induction, blah, blah, blah. Legal compliance. Legal compliance, only 50%. So you're only doing it legally half the time.
Imagine that. Somebody
So that
else
was like-
said that they're illegal.
So 50% of the crap you do is illegal. That was page 27. And let's see. Now we get to the project team noted a history of certain work taking extremely long periods of time to be addressed and completed, as well as the use of the work order system being inconsistently implemented, leading to communication breakdowns and overlooked tasks. Well, we know all about that, don't we? Because later on they're going to talk about the duct work and stuff if we get to it, because we're going. But I saved this to remind everybody. Talks about how you should procure people to inspect every year for compliance of all of these money you're paying out. Here's the stuff. Here's the stuff, everybody. There you go. There's the contract. The infamous contract for the ducks that still got mold in them. And let's see. First year they got it, we paid them $793,401. Next year we paid them $862,260. Next year we paid them $931,260. The next year we paid them $1,005,768. And the following year we paid them $1,086,240. We still got mold in the ducks. Who the F is inspecting them? Where's the accountability? Why hasn't somebody gone to jail? Kenny Pacheco gave the guy that secured this contract with him a $95,000 a year job in a school department when he retired. You don't think there's something rotten going on in the state of Denmark here? Come on. Come on. This is nuts. I mean, this is corruption at its highest level. Gone unaddressed. The Fall River School Department has the dubious distinction of having one of the few departments that have somebody going directly to jail for corruption when the old Durfee was built. Time to put a few more people in jail, Colin. So then we get on to, numerous times the project team heard that the facilities operations continue to be reactive versus than proactive. Well, being reactive would be like having a contract for 5 years with your ducks and never having them cleaned up and doing nothing. So that's kind of like, then you got to do something. So it's reactive. There's a history of applying, and this is a quote on page 28, Band-Aids as opposed to strategically planning and implementing improvements. And then it goes on to create appropriate staffing levels requiring identifying and defining the different work environments in which employees are responsible for functioning. That's part of a table of organization. That's a redundancy. But, I mean, this whole thing it's just, I mean, you need a week to go over this, but, it takes you about, you need a week to read it all, but you need 5 minutes to realize that the bottom line of this is that the school department is a total mess.
The bottom line is the mayor and the superintendent of schools are assholes. Did I make that pretty clear, or do I need to repeat myself?
And this is another great one. And the next, on page 29, first full paragraph, it talks about professional development and everything. And so we need professional development plan to do, which already should be developed, by the way, to ensure that employees have the appropriate knowledge to successfully complete their duties. They're supposed to do that on an ongoing basis all the time. So in other words, you can be a total screw up. Well, then again, Coogan was like that for 30 years. They never caught him either. So I guess maybe he's one of the reasons that they finally figured out they need to check to see if these people actually know what the hell they're getting paid to do. This is nuts. You wonder why our educational attainment level is where it is? You wonder why we're paying so much for jobs that Kenny just throws the money out and they won't tell you why? Processes and procedural development, same page 29. Facilities operation procedure. You need a manual. Which, how many times we talked about manuals? I just showed you a manual. And if anybody ever wants to know how to cook a rat long enough to kill all the bacteria, it's in my handbook. So I mean, so it depends on the situation you're in. There's a lot of valuable information out there in manuals. So that's one.
I don't believe there's enough time on the fire to kill the bacteria in Coogan.
The documents which documents clear standards, policies, procedures, and accountability measures. There you go. Accountability.
They're swearing.
Transparency. The things we've been talking about since Coogan got in office that he promised to do and doesn't do. I mean, this report is just,
they'll never be hired again.
No, it's not the people. It's the nitwits that, he gave out enough jobs to get elected when only 11,000 people show up to vote.
That's right.
There's a recount tomorrow, but hopefully, but I'm a pragmatist. I'm not gonna. That's a lot to overcome. But there are a lot of questions about that.
And in a smug way, very smug way, Coogan said to the press today, however the vote comes out, it comes out. The people's wish will happen. But it's going to be very hard to get over these numbers. Just like that, he said it. He should have added to that, and I'm an asshole, so.
Yeah, well, it's disgusting that the people don't come out, and that's the problem. So then we get to a few other little highlighted sections here. I'm on page 30 now, second paragraph. Based on a type of procurement being sought and estimated cost, the IG's office details is telling them about how to procure in accordance with the law, which they should know how to do. Planning and procurement contracted annual inspections. Here's the one we get to, and I just talked about the ductwork. Planning and procuring contracted annual inspections and maintenance services is an extension of good management practices, which means they have none. Numerous systems and components are required to be inspected annually. Similarly, systems are not regulated for annual inspection, but should be examined. So here we go. Fire department, fire detection systems, sprinkler systems, elevators, boilers, fire extinguishers, duct and vent cleaning, chimneys, generators. That's on page 31. Plumbing, insects, backflow preventers, boilers, fumes. In other words, anything that really has to do with providing a healthy environment for the people who are working in the building. But they don't do it. Again, here's another thing the study's saying. They have no plan, no system in place to ensure accountability. And it's ductworks right here. Here's the contracts we've spent. I added it up for a while. It's like $4 million. We paid this company millions and millions of dollars to clean the ductwork. That company should not be employed in the city of Fall River right now. They should be in court paying us mitigation money for the damage they did to the school environment, to the children, to the teachers, because they didn't do what their contract said they were going to do, maintain the ductwork. But Kenny Pacheco instead gives one of them a $95,000 a year job in the school department. You're telling me this isn't corrupt? I'm sorry. If if this isn't corrupt in your book, you don't have the same definition of corruption. And here we go. Capital planning. This is one of my favorite pages. I even put a couple extra arrows in there. Oh, you can't see them over there. I even underlined it. I even underlined my yellow highlight with pen because I love this one. Capital planning. Finally, a trend emerged surrounding capital planning. Project team noted capital planning appeared to be less formalized and did not properly leverage database. In other words, they had no freaking idea what they were doing. That's, again, fancy words from consultants, so they don't really say, we're never going to get hired again because the guy called us total assholes, which we are. But they're not going to call us a total asshole. They're going to do it in a very, very pedantic way. They're gonna make the language work for them. So they'll tell you that. Said it was less formalized. In other words, they had no plan. And it did not properly leverage databases. Well, how do you figure it out if you don't know numbers? Those databases and numbers, such as work order systems, asset inventories, including but not limited to HVAC equipment and other building components. The project team recommends establishing a clear accountability chain. Oh, accountability. God, they put the word in that word that's now up there with another expletive, like forensic. And process to support annual and ongoing capital improvement planning. And they want you to assess the budget, the scope of the project development, bidding, procurement, overall project management. In other words, doing your freaking job. When people build things or are in charge of buildings, companies, they're accountable. They just got this other guy from Rhode Island about the bridge under oath now because they made a public entity, never has. And I don't have to read you again Paul's, when he first got in, talking about he was going to be accountable and transparent and everything else. And then we get into a few surveys. Again, in a facilities area, their legal compliance is 50%. Again, CJ, that seems to be the magic number. They do half right, the easy ones, and the other half they use their own set of rules.
You know what it is? They've only got half a person doing that job. They've got 6 people being paid to do it, but only half a person does the job. That's the problem.
You sure it's a half a person or a half wit?
Yeah, exactly. We solved the problem right away. Not a big deal.
And then we get to these things. As following is discussed, and here's some of the recommendations in this area. It's on page 12. I don't know how this one got out of sequence, but it is. There are critical legal compliance issues that are not being actively overseen by the state. In other words, they're being ignored. See that again? We're using the turn of the phrase like I don't know. Maybe Shakespeare helped write this thing because they're turning a very nice phrase. They're doing it very diplomatically. They're not being actively overseen. In other words, nobody's paying attention. That's in English. That means they're not even paying attention. By a staff member or a designated leadership position. A number of staffing positions are possibly duplicated between a variety of individuals, including, we know that. Coogan got rid of one supervisor and hired 3 more to help him, and they all got pay raises. So a number of staffing issues are possibly duplicated between a variety of individuals, including reference checking, scheduling, succession planning, positions, employee investigations. Again, they don't want to hire too many people for that because they don't want to investigate anything, especially if they're friends. Substitute managed activities on a whole have little to no oversight. So that's really encouraging. Little to no oversight. Okay. Coordination of purchasing outside the items managed by central inventory services absent, not there, or inconsistent. I mean, this is friggin' horrifying. It's friggin' horrifying. You couldn't run a one-man parade. I mean, this is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever read in my life. It's just beyond the scope of ability. And like I said, it took so much time. That's why we want to.
It gives a whole new meaning to the word stupid.
But yeah, and then there's a whole bunch of lists here in data analysis that you guys can look at that shows like they've got all these different categories and subcategories that give you their where they stand. If they're either duplicate, if there's a duplication of effort or there's a gap area, in other words, that means it's not being handled sufficiently. So let's see what we got here on a few pages here, but I got a ton of them here. Recruitment, scheduling of district school-based interviews, possible duplication of effort. Hiring, personnel action forms, gap area. Reference checking of people who are candidates. Possible duplication of effort. Let's see. Induction and retention, preparation for district employee orientation programs, gap area. Assessment of mentors for new teachers, gap area. Oversight of responsibility for induction, gap area. Review of superintendent checklist for HR, gap area. Monitoring all educational data for district, gap area. Identifying vacancies, duplication of effort. Identifying new positions, duplication of effort. Decision that need for independent medical exams, gap area, gap area, gap area. Civil service approving authority, gap area. Records retention, gap area. Coordination of services, gap area. Responsibility, well, I think you get the point. This is nuts. This is freaking crazy. I'm telling you. This is arguably one of the most damning reports I have ever seen in my life. And it's good that we have a new school committee because somebody should make them read that right before they're sworn in. And they should get the work right after they lower their hand. And Paul Coogan can no longer run that thing like Il Jen Kim or whatever his name is.
Kim Jong-un.
Kim Jong-un or whatever. Charmaine Sandwich. I don't know what the hell his name is. But you can't. The school department has to be brought under control. And it's up to you, Colin, and
Kevin and Anna.
Now you got help. And now you got proof. If they can't, I know that Ann Riley has the intelligence to look at this thing and be horrified. And I hopefully you're going to get some help, but this has to be taken care of. I couldn't even estimate the hundreds of millions of dollars that have been wasted of taxpayer money. The hundreds of students that have been harmed by a lack of a thorough investigation.
How about the number of employees?
The number of employees, but at least they can file a lawsuit. They'll file a lawsuit. We'll pay. It's the fault of lack of any kind of process. But with the children, some of these kids are going to be, carry this for the rest of their life. They had traumatic experiences as children in a school environment, and then it got swept under a rug.
And some of it put in there by the teachers or by the staff. Yeah, it is a win. No, it is, Jody. It is. It is. It's disgusting. Look, I would be the first guy to say maybe I'm a little overzealous about having transparency and accountability, because I basically my entire adult life worked in the military or for a quasi-military organization which had a military structure. And in between my military service and my service on a fire department, I worked for the federal government at a federal installation which had a lot of oversight. But so I'm used to being held accountable. With us it was easy. I worked at Quonset, and
I worked in electronics and on the planes, and if the plane didn't get out, there was no reason to. They knew you weren't accountable. If you didn't get the plane out, you weren't doing your job. So, but this is it infuriates me because I know that there were kids that were really, really, badly psychologically and some of them physically hurt because of total lack of leadership by the school department, by the superintendents of schools, by the mayor, by the school committee. And I'm not saying Colin and Kevin because they always ask the questions. They suppressed Malone. They suppressed everything. This is the problem. This is the problem. This is an outrage to the community. Yeah, Gene. Well, let's hope that we've got a new school committee. Let's hope that there is a change because it's going to be up to them. You're right. It's going to be up to them because we always said that we felt that it was this bad. But now we've got a neutral organization came in and did a study that corroborated everything we have always been saying about lack of accountability, lack of transparency, lack of everything. And, and the thing is now it's up to the school department, school committee, and the new city council to stop taking shut up and go away as an answer from Paul Coogan. Sue him. Sue him. I told a city councilor, I had a conversation with one of my lawyer friend, who's one of the best attorneys in the state, for public sector law, and he told me numerous times, every time we had a problem down there, he'd call me and say, well, it's up to the city council, if the corporation council is going to tell them no, they won't give them the information, and they're legally entitled to it, you got to sue them. Take them to court.
That's it.
City council won't do it. School committee won't do it. And that's what you have to do. So. Colin and Kevin are doing a great job, but they can't do it. Two men, and and the guy that really should be brought up on charges is Coogan because he's malfeasant as the ex officio chairman by telling people I refuse to give you the numbers. He's not only doing that, violating it for the school budget, he's violating it for the city budget as the mayor. I mean, he is guilty of massive malfeasance as a mayor. This report is just,
like Gene said, Gene's been talking about it for 6 or 7 years. We've been talking about it a lot longer. This report just confirms it. So again, we're proven right, and the mayor, up yours.
But now it's time. Look, there's no excuses now. They can't say it's just Gene St. Pierre, CJ, and Chip, being negative. No, we're not being negative. We're being truthful.
That's it.
We're being truthful.
That's right.
And this is the problem. So, it's up to them now to sue Baby Sue. And we'll see what happens. Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. This report isn't going to.
It's going to be difficult, that's for sure. Well, yeah. I want to thank you all for watching. It's always a pleasure to spend an hour of the evening with you. And remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. And tomorrow's the recount. If you want to watch, go out there and see. Let them in. Make them let you in. Because you need to know. Chip's going to be there busting balls. So will our friend Marcy Etkin. So make sure you're there to bust a few as well. Have a great evening and a great weekend. We'll talk to you on Monday. Have a good one.